Hey there, welcome to the Sarah Hall Show. I think this is episode 4, and I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. I have a really special treat for you guys. I am actually going to give you a director's, producer, writer commentary on my first feature film that I was fortunate enough to film in 2021, and then we started releasing it, I believe, in 2023. And this is going to give you guys an inside look into what it really takes to make an independent feature film. At the end, you want to stay tuned to the end because I'm actually going to tell you guys all about what it actually cost to make this film, what we did wrong, where we're at with distribution, and I'm just going to give you an inside look into the entire process of making this film. If you want to watch the actual film with no commentary, it's completely free. You can click the link below to actually watch the full thing without the commentary. Again, it's completely free. You don't have to do anything else but just click and watch. And then if you want to come back and watch this commentary or do it the other way around, it's completely up to you. So without further ado, let's get started. So first thing to mention here, which is really interesting. So these underwater scenes were filmed with my iPhone. We bought a waterproof case, I believe it was on Amazon, and my DP was in the actual water in a pool in a backyard filming the underwater scenes. We actually got a high school professional swimmer from Florida where we locally filmed it to do these scenes and to be this character. That's why he looks so good, because he actually was a pro swimmer and he actually ended up going to the collegiate level about a year later, I think. And this entire film, the majority of the scenes were filmed in an Airbnb that we rented on the west coast of Florida, where I'm from, where we actually made this film. So I really enjoyed making these first few shots in the backyard. We had a lot of people on set that day. It was a beautiful day, very sunny. It was very hot, so we tried to hurry up and shoot and then go back inside because it was an extremely warm day in July in Florida. So we were sweating out there. I remember at one point I had an iPad for my monitor. I was sitting on a beach chair or something in the backyard watching the take, and I had to put a towel over my head so I could actually see the screen so there wasn't a bunch of shadows and glares. And I just remember just feeling the sweat dripping down my body while I'm sitting there trying to watch the take and what it looked like, because it was so hot that day. Now, being from Florida, I knew there was going to be heat involved. So fortunately, I'm used to it. We did not have any medical emergencies on set, but it was hot and it was a bit brutal. So I'm going to pause this really quick and tell you guys, the guy in the car here, the one with the lighter color hair, he was playing the dad of the swimmer. He actually originally auditioned to be the main role. The other guy that's talking, Matt, in the movie, he actually auditioned to be the main character role, but his scheduling did not allow for us to cast him in that role, but he was a really close competitor for the main character. Oh, and by the way, that the truck behind that car was my truck. The car they were using was my associate producer as producing assistant, her car that we use all of our own vehicles to film in the movie. Yep, so there he gets into my truck. All he did was back out of the driveway and then just pull up against just so that we could get that shot. So this scene right here where he's pulling up to work was actually our last day filming on set before we completely wrapped. And so most of the other actors were not there. We actually filmed that at a local community college that my DP knew some people there. She was more local to the area, so she got permission for us to film in their parking lot. And that was our last day filming for the movie. So Ben Buchanan, which played the main character Matt, he was an extremely new actor. They were all new actors, but he had no actual movie experience at this point. But just physically and him being a dad in real life, he just really fit the character. And his appearance was exactly what I was thinking for that role. And so he just really fit it well, and so I cast him, and he was amazing to work with. By the end of the 10 days that we were actually filming, he almost turned into a different person as an actor. He just really blossomed, and we got to watch him grow into that character on set, which was really awesome. And so this guy, Barry Williams Jr., the guy who played Eric, the uncle, the doctor guy, so he was actually in the same room with them when we were doing this, filming the FaceTime call. He was just a few feet away, and we actually did a real call. And somehow with the camera, we filmed the laptop screen, and then we filmed him talking in the phone somehow. I can't remember exactly how we did it, but he was in the same room for us to make that work, and going back and forth with the lines. And me and the DP had to work that out in pre-production to figure out how we were going to do that. It was a lot of research, but I think it worked in the end. So one thing I wish we had done differently is either budgeted for more set design type of stuff, or asked more people for props, because the house, the Airbnb we rented, was pretty bare. So we did have a few things that we made ourselves. We put inside the home some pictures of the actors together, acting like it's a family photo, but the walls were a little too bare. I wish we had spent more time prepping the location to look more like a lived-in home for the family. But again, that's a rookie mistake, and we did our best. I think overall it worked, but we could have spent more time and probably more money on that. So one of the things, this is an on-set secret that I'll share with you guys, was when Matt is coming from the backyard, he's been supposedly mowing the lawn or fixing the lawnmower. He looks like he has some dirt on him. Those are actually ground coffee beans from the coffee maker. Our sound guy was like, hey, what else? We could use something else to make it look like he's been dirty. He's in the backyard working. So we got ground coffee beans and put them all over him, sprayed some water, something like that, to make it look like he'd been sweating. And so that's how we made him look like that without hiring a full makeup department. We did not have that in the budget. So we had to get really creative on set with a lot of things, and that was something that I think ended up working. So if you guys want to know how to make somebody look dirty without putting dirt on them, ground coffee beans. So the picture that Matt is looking at before he goes and showers in the bedroom here with him and his wife, it's supposed to be a past picture of them when they were a happy couple. That picture we actually took at a restaurant, a coffee shop where I met them. The first time I met them before, I think it was right after I cast both of them, we just went outside and took those pictures in real life and then used them later for those photos on set. So that was the first time meeting the actors, and we went ahead and took those photos because we knew we were going to use them later. So those were actually a picture of them in real life that we took of them. It was not. Now some other things were photoshopped, but those were not. So this was a scene that was interesting because Rashida Isaac, who plays the mom, after we did the scene in the kitchen with her talking to the daughter, she made a comment about the character being really sassy and really challenging her as a mom, etc. But she's also supposed to be sick. She's a preteen. So I definitely wrote that character to be, there's supposed to be tension between the parents. And so I thought that was the girl who played the daughter did a really great job actually bringing that to life on set. So I think I'm actually going to skip to a couple different scenes that I want to talk to you guys about, just so that it doesn't take so much time to film this video, but I'll still give you my commentary and my notes on specific scenes that I will tell you how we filmed it and why it's important. So I skipped to the timestamp 9:15. This is where Ben and Rashida, the actors, Matt and Heather, the characters, they have this really rough argument and conversation outside at nighttime. There was mosquitoes out, and this was at nighttime in the backyard, the same location. But that conversation between them, the tension between those characters, really, really challenged them as actors. And that was one of those moments where I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to turn out. But we let them do their thing. We're sitting there in the backyard. I'm sitting on the patio, on the ground, watching them. And I just remember some other people on set were like, They told me afterwards they were almost crying because they actually surprised all of us, and I think themselves as well, having to do that really challenging scene of arguing with each other, and they're not sure what's going on in their marriage. So we just learn more about what's happening with them as a couple, and I think they really pulled off that scene really well, and it allowed me for the first time as a director to see how you just let actors do what they're supposed to do. You give them a few notes here and there, but sometimes just doing multiple takes, letting them get comfortable with that particular scene, will help them adjust and relax more to actually do what they need to do when it comes to the performance. And so they were surprised, and they had both really big smiles on their faces when this scene was over, when we wrapped filming that scene, because I think they felt like they accomplished what they needed to accomplish. So just letting the actors have that room to do that, I think, is one of the best tips as a director you can do. And there's somebody outside right now making some noise with a truck. Hopefully you guys cannot hear that. Okay, so moving on to another scene, it starts at about the 24-minute mark, where Matt comes in. He's angry, he's really frustrated. He had just gone for the run. He comes back, talks to the son, and then comes inside because he finds some trophies, some old memorabilia of his that has accidentally ended up by the curb. So he thinks that the wife is trying to throw away his things, which is not the case. But that was something we had to do a couple times when he comes in and shuts the door forcefully, to get him to look like actually really mad at her. I told him, I said, I think you have got to give her a death stare. You've got to really pull this off. And so eventually on one of the takes, I don't think it's the one that we used, but he took his hat off, and she said she was legit scared of him at that point. He had to get really mad, and I had to work with him on that look when he first walked through the door. So this is one of my favorite scenes working with these two actors, the mom and the dad. Once they go into the bedroom and they have this really big blow up argument / fight, I just remember I'm sitting in the closet, unlike some luggage, or I'm sitting in the closet in the same room watching them right in front of me do the whole thing, go through the dialogue. We did it several times. And then at one point, I gave them more room to explore with the dialogue. And I said, this takes for you guys. You don't have to follow the dialogue exactly. Just say what you think the characters would be saying. And I think we actually might have used a little bit of that take for his dialogue. And I actually think we changed it. I think once he said certain things that made sense, I said, hey, that was my most favorite take. And then I think we had them do it a couple times more, and we ended up using those last takes because he was a little bit more convincing with his emotions at that point. But that was one of my favorite scenes, watching them play that out. So this scene where her brother is in the kitchen with his daughter, that is actually the actor's daughter in real life. He came down to Florida. He's actually from Atlanta. He came down to Florida with his family, and they made a vacation out of his work schedule. And then the next scene where you see a couple of other children in the backyard, that's actually the actors, also his kids in real life. So we used them on set so that we didn't have to hire other people and get other people involved to have their kids and act like it was this big family. They were actually related in real life. So that's kind of a behind the scenes snippet. So at the 26-minute mark, or a little bit after that, we have the scene that actually started the whole script for me and gave me the inspiration for the whole film. So with the dad and the daughter in the backyard, in my head, I had a lot of scenes that we would film their feet and different things underwater in the backyard, and then we suddenly figure out this is a whole family. They're in the backyard. This whole story is built around this one location, the house they live in, people coming in and out. Are they divorced? Are they not? There's a lot of tension, so we're having to figure out what's going on. So all those very dramatic moments, those were the inspirational moments for me to finish writing the script. And so this is one of my favorite scenes, is Amy and Matt, the dad and daughter, in the backyard. She's checking on him. He's saying he's fine, but we know he's not. And so it's just this back and forth, mild tension where you see they have a good relationship, so we get a little bit of his backstory. But visually, this was one of my favorite scenes to shoot and to have in the film, when the dad and the daughter are just having a very real conversation in the backyard, sitting by the pool. So once we hit the 34-minute mark, right when we go from the dad and the uncle talking, we go back to the house and they're asleep. The mom comes and talks to the oldest daughter. That scene was a bit hard to film with the lighting. And then there is a part of the script that was a good part of the script that I really enjoyed, but filming it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. The actor that we used was super nice, but just not as experienced. And so when it came time for her to cry a little bit, she wasn't really able to do that with us in the room the way that you would in real life. And so we had to use some teardrops to make it look like she was crying a bit, getting a bit choked up, which it didn't exactly come out the way that I had hoped. So I think we trimmed that scene a little bit when we put it in the movie. We still used it, but it wasn't as long, I think, as when we originally filmed it. Because some things, that's when you learn the hard way, some things just don't work. If you don't get the right performance from the actor, if you don't have enough things to put in between scenes, like stock footage or something like that, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And unfortunately, as a newer filmmaker, sometimes you don't know that until you reach the editing room, and you'll have to figure that out later the hard way. So this is about minute 36. Again, that is my truck the actor is driving. We just ended up filming that at a local park, and yes, it was nighttime. That was something we filmed in real time. He was actually driving, and we were all trying to wrap up for the day and get out of there because it was hot, there was mosquitoes, but it was still a really important scene in the film, so we all pulled together to really get that in the can, as they say, and then we all wrapped up and went home. So this is beginning to be one of my favorite scenes that we filmed on set and that made it into the film. So at the end of this scene where he's in the car, he's thinking about going on. This is a bit of a mini montage. Excuse me. So she's at home. We understand they're both thinking the same things. They're thinking about probably each other, their marriage. They're having their own contemplation moments where they're really thinking, we can see them thinking about what's going on in their lives. So when it transitions here and we see this bridge scene, that is stock footage I bought. But the footage is of a real bridge that is in the real area that we filmed it. So I wanted to pay the money to have that so that it would be more authentic to the story and to marketing it as a local Florida film. So then, this is my favorite scene at the 38-minute mark when he comes home and he wants to talk to her. She's sitting there already, she has a key in her hand. She's already made up her mind about their situation, being separated, etc. And this is something that this scene originally did not work the way that I saw it working based on the script. The dialogue was too long. I gave her like a monologue that it just did not work. The dialogue didn't make sense once we actually saw them and heard them playing the scene out together before we started actually filming it. We had them do a couple of practice rounds, and I just said, hey, this is not working. There's too much talking. There's not enough tension. This is not working. So I think me and maybe my DP and then the actors, we took probably about 30 minutes completely readjusting that scene and the dialogue, and we just went with what made sense. We let them fill in. I think they did a little bit of improv, and we rewrote out part of that script for that scene. And it ended up being, I think that's probably my favorite scene as far as dialogue and the characters, the actors really getting familiar and comfortable with each other. That scene is now one of my favorites because the dialogue and everything I think just worked so much better. The end part of that, the punchline where she says, we're not at high school anymore. We both basically need to grow up. That's what she was saying. And that's something that we adjusted that and added that line in while we were on set because the original script just did not work when we actually were there practicing and trying to film it. So sometimes those adjustments are needed. It did take more time, but I feel like it was well worth it. So I'm going to skip a couple of scenes and go back so you guys can see how we did this. Around the 48-minute mark, when the mom and the dad are in the backyard, it's nighttime, they're having this backyard date that he set up. That was filmed, I believe, on our almost last day on set. It was the last day that all the actors were on set together. That was a tough night because we had to check out of the Airbnb location the next day. So that was the only day we had left to finish those particular scenes. So we did the underwater scene, actually no, that was a different day. So the very last scene where the daughter's on the floor, the glass breaks, which you guys will see in a minute, we did that on the same day as this one. And it was, I think, 11 or 12 o'clock at night when we were finishing filming this backyard scene. Then we went straight to the one in the front yard, where actually it ends up being almost the last scene that you see in the film. So I'll skip to that and tell you guys how we did that. Give me a second. I'm finding the timestamp. Around the 55-minute mark, where you see, and I will try to actually include in this video some actual behind the scenes footage of what it looked like on set. But where you see them driving to the hospital, they're supposed to be following an ambulance. That's why you see the lights flashing on and off the characters' faces in the car. We used my truck. They're in my truck, but this was not them actually driving. This was them pretending, the same way you would on a major film set. I Googled and did so much research on how to film fake driving scenes. There was a projector facing the outside of the window where we see his face and he's driving with the steering wheel and then the lights on his face. My sound guy came through and had a bunch of lights, flickering lights, like a light bar that he used, and he was shining that on the windshield while the actor's pretending to drive. But we had a projector and a screen on the other side of the window that I had bought with the film budget, and we had practiced that, and then it was connected to my laptop with some footage that my DP actually filmed of at nighttime going through a local street in the same area so that it would look somewhat authentic. We could have just done stock footage, but anyway, we used my laptop, the projector, and the screen to fake them driving the car, and personally, I think it came out really well. So if you don't have a budget, I think maybe that was a few $100s, a couple hundred at most. It wasn't that expensive to get the projector. I think I bought a lot of stuff on Amazon to do these particular kinds of scenes, and so I think it came out really well. But they were not driving in a car. That was a fake driving scene, and I did a lot of research to figure out how to make that look somewhat real, and again, I think it came out really well. So this is one of my favorite stories I want to share with you guys from on set. Behind the scenes secrets, I'll tell you. Again, they're driving my truck in real life. This was probably about 1 a.m., maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, because we did not have the time frame for the other actors. The schedule did not allow for it, so we had to finish filming with all the actors on this particular day. So what I did is, we were so sleep deprived at that point that I was just like, I think I didn't have enough sleep, so I just started laughing uncontrollably at this point. So they were all in the truck, they pull up, and what I would do is I went behind the car and then I would tap on it to tell them we're ready. That was kind of my way to say action because they were inside the car, they couldn't hear me. So I tapped on the back of the car and then I would run back near some bushes, and then my DP would film them coming out of the car. They're running towards the hospital. So I was dying laughing after we yelled cut and they're running past me. I was just dying laughing, and everybody thought that was so hilarious. And I was like, I didn't even know why I couldn't stop laughing. That's one of the most serious scenes in the movie, but on set as a director, was a bit embarrassed, but it's okay. We're all friends at that point. I was dying laughing, and one of the actors somewhere, I think, has some footage of me on set laughing uncontrollably because I was so sleep deprived, filming this at about 1 a.m. in the morning. And then the last part of this, almost the last image you see in the film, this was actually filmed in a parking lot, I think maybe 15-20 minutes away from the Airbnb where we had just finished filming the other scenes before this. And we had gotten permission from these people that owned this parking lot that actually was right next to an actual hospital where the ambulance entrance was. And so we were not actually at the hospital, so we did not need permission to film there. We just needed permission. We just told the people, hey, it'll be this time at night. We're just gonna use your parking lot to get the shot in the background. Is that okay? We explained it to them. So we got permission from those owners, but that helped us budget-wise and time-wise to not actually have to work with the hospital to film there. We just used a parking lot right next to it, and that's how we faked being at the hospital. So after my DP read the script initially, she actually gave me the idea to add something at the end where we get some resolution on the parents' marriage and their relationship. So at that point, I rewrote that and added in him putting on the wedding ring. I will admit, a lot of people they were surprised about the cliffhanger ending, and some people were like, are you serious? It's over? What's going on? So I don't know. I've seen a lot of comments. Some people have been asking me, is there going to be a part 2? Is there going to be a sequel to this? I don't know. That would probably be hard to pull off at this point. So I don't know if that's in the future for this film, but you never know. It could be. All right. So that was the full commentary on my first feature film, The Checkup. It was a short feature. It was barely an hour long, which as an indie filmmaker, as this being the first time for me to do it on my own, again, without a major studio, without major producers involved and a big budget, it could have been longer. The script could have been longer. That was something that I think with distribution hurt us a little bit, but I'm okay with that. We managed to pull this thing off and actually make a movie. It has gotten a lot of views on our other YouTube channel, which I'm really proud of, but we did make a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes as the producer, as the director. And so for distribution, I talked to 2 different distribution companies that one of them was interested in picking up this film, but for different reasons they chose not to go with us, and that was okay. It was a bit disappointing when I first heard from them and heard their decision. So I did look into more traditional distribution avenues for this film, but at the end of the day, I ended up just trying to use it by offering it for free on our YouTube channel to help get views and traction for that, so that in the future we're slowly building our audience so that people understand, hey, our goal is to actually create more content to share with you guys. And so I can't say I have any regrets. The amount of people that dream of doing what we actually did, actually being able to say I made a feature film, I have to be grateful for that. I can't be ungrateful. So I don't have any regrets. There are a lot of things I would have done differently. I put a lot of my own money into this project and into finishing it. So roughly the budget that we spent on this film total, when it comes to post-production, production, all of that, was closer to around $15,000, which for a feature film, I'm sure that is zero. That's having no budget, which I did not realize that till a little while later after filming. And so it was rough. It was bare minimum skeleton crew on set. That's why we had the main cast and characters were only about 6 or 7 people. So we kept it small. I kept it small on purpose because I knew we did not have a big budget for this. Now for budgeting, we had one private investor, we did some crowdfunding, and like I said, I pretty much self-funded the rest of it myself. And COVID, at that time, COVID was still kind of a thing. And so after filming, my job situation changed, and it was really tough financially to, in post, actually get this done, pay the editors, pay the sound people, to actually get this done and finished as a finished product. It was tough. and I would not recommend. Thankfully, I didn't use credit cards to finish it, so I wasn't in debt in that way. But the amount of time and energy and my personal money that went into it, it's not something I want to do again that particular way. But again, I'm grateful because I can say I've made an actual movie, I've done a feature film, and so that goes on my resume. I had a great experience working with all the actors on set. Everybody said they had a great experience working with me as the director. Everyone got along, which is something that is rare in this industry. And I believe that's because of the culture that I set up, and I made sure I was intentional about that. I said this is a family-friendly environment. We're making a family-friendly film, and so everyone is supposed to act like that on set. I made certain rules everyone had to adhere by when they were on set, and it was great. We had a great experience because of that. But if you guys have specific questions about the process of making this movie or just independent filmmaking, something that you think I can answer, let me know in the comments down below. If you're going to watch it on the other channel, and if you have any other things behind the scenes stuff that you want me to cover, I would be more than happy to do that on this channel. We do have some behind the scenes clips on My Sunshine Media. It's at My Sunshine Media Films. That's our handle on our other channel where the actual feature film is that you can watch completely for free. And go check out our website. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this commentary was somewhat entertaining and helpful to you guys if you are a newer young filmmaker looking to film your first feature as well. And thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps us continue to give you guys free content. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on The Sarah Hall Show.